Welcome all of you to our meeting this evening, and I call this meeting of Sylvania City Council for May 3rd, 2021 to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mrs. Cappellini.
Here.
Mr. Fry.
Here.
Mr. Haynem.
Here.
Mr. McCann.
Here.
Mr. Richardson. He's absent. Ms. Stiles.
Here.
Mrs. Westphal.
Here.
Mr. Richardson is excused, and 6 members of City Council are present, therefore a quorum does exist. I welcome all our guests this evening. We appreciate you being here. We're a little behind schedule because of the long committee hearing that began at 6 o'clock this evening. I understand, I'm guessing that you are here for Cushman Road, and I will add you as agenda item 4A, so you don't have to spend any more time of your evening here with us than necessary. At this time, I invite you to join us in our Pledge of Allegiance, this meeting led by Ms. Stiles.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Additions to the agenda, I do add as agenda item 4A, a discussion of Pushman Road. I will first have the service director via Zoom give us a brief update of the project status for members of council that may not have driven it and or have questions about the status of the contract, and then we'll invite the residents to speak. I have no further items for the agenda. Mr. Fry.
Nothing, Mr. Mayor.
Members of City Council. Hearing none. Mr. Sanford.
Nothing, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Schroyer.
Nothing, Mr. Mayor.
Chief Snower.
Nothing, Mr. Mayor.
And Mr. Aller, who is joining us via Zoom tonight. For those of you that do not know, Mr. Aller was exposed to COVID at home and has been tested positive, I believe, and is isolated through tonight until tomorrow, has had mild symptoms, as has a member of his family. So other than that, I think we're doing pretty well on COVID around the city. He did not catch it here. He did not spread it here. It got to him at home. Mr. Aller, anything to add to the agenda?
No, nothing to add, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
And then Mrs. Bryant.
Nothing, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and tonight's agenda is approved. Agenda item 4 is approval of the meeting minutes from our last meeting on April 19th. Mr. Prime.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move that we adopt the minutes for the council meeting of April 19th, 2021 as submitted.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the meeting minutes from April 19th, 2021 as submitted. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and those meeting minutes are approved. Now going to added agenda item 4A, Cushman Road improvements. I would first like to give the service director via Zoom a chance to update us just on the status of the contract, and then welcome the residents that wish to speak to the podium to give us their addresses and to speak. Mr. Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The construction of the project had been going along pretty well. The contractor was ahead of schedule and getting things placed back in. Unfortunately, there were some errors made in establishing the water services. And so our crews are in there basically replacing or modifying. We're not doing a full replacement, but we're modifying the water services over the course of the next few days. They were out there actually all day today in the rain, working and getting, I think they got about 8 or 9 of the services taken care of today. And they'll be doing that over, hopefully be able to get them finished up tomorrow. If not, then they'll be into Wednesday to get them finished up. But much of the project had been, I shouldn't say much, some of the project had been, they had started trying to get things to finish grades and things of that nature. With the rain and knowing that the water services were coming up, that we were going to have to re-excavate, we stopped that activity so that we didn't have to do it again. But the project's probably, I would say 90%. That's an estimate. But we're probably at about, well, we have all of the resurfacing to be done. Yes, we're probably at about 80-85% of the work to be completed. So they did mill the top surface off. They've replaced the intermediate course, and then they'll be coming back for the final course once all of the other work is done. So that's where we're at with the construction.
All right. Again, I welcome you. I know some of you attended our meeting a couple of weeks ago. You're welcome to come up to the podium and make your comments. Just give us your name and your address when you do it.
Hi. I think everybody, I know Sharon Duvall, 5824 Pushman Road. I think you all heard me 2 weeks ago, so I'm not going to go over everything that I have told or emailed to you, but I do have a few other things. When I look at my property taxes, I've noticed that I have a ditch/drain district, Sylvania, that I've been paying property taxes on for a ditch that I don't have since
Every just as informational item, that every address in the city pays a front footage assessment.
Okay.
And it's actually on the agenda tonight to approve it, to add to the tax duplicate for next year. Whether you have a ditch or not, you pay that. And the strange thing about it is that it only serves for open drainages. It's specifically named for that. And if the sewers are underground, that really doesn't cover it. So you have been benefiting it. When the ditches were still all open on your street until they were filled in, that was part of it. But it's really to serve the main drainage ways of the city.
Okay.
It's an additional assessment. It's a small assessment. But if you get outside of the city limits, then it becomes a county responsibility, and they are not nearly as responsive as they are in the city.
Okay. So is it to clean ditches or?
It is to maintain stormwater flow, not just ditches, but also the main drainways. There's one near my house that goes through Molander Park and then north through Lincoln Woods. You just to take care of things like that.
So it's pretty much an assessment that every
address in the city, every parcel pays that.
Okay.
I wanted to make sure you understood that.
Yeah, but that makes sense now, because I wondered, I didn't have a ditch before. I have one right now. But,
that wouldn't matter. I don't have a ditch on my property either.
But you pay.
But my stormwater eventually drains to a ditch.
Right. Okay. One other thing, I have a question, maybe Mr. Aller can answer this. And I don't know anything about this, but my husband questioned why there are not gable ends at the ends of the driveway, so that as the runoff, in the decay and erosion over time, like right now, I know it's not done, but a lot of the driveways are just falling into the ditches now. I do have a couple pictures I'd like to pass out. One is just the ditch sitting with water. I know it's not done yet, but this was one rain, and the water sits much deeper right now than it has ever before. I'll pass that out. My problem is that I didn't know what was happening.
When you refer to gable ends, are you talking about something like here?
Right.
Okay.
To keep it from eroding down.
Okay.
And I know it's not done, but there's no gable ends on
Kevin,
it.
can you address that one? I believe she's pointing at a picture of the edges of the driveway when they go down into the swale.
Right. Like right now, after the rain, I've got a picture of my neighbor's property, Pete, that's here. And this is how his yard looks right now. His ditch is pretty much done except for the hydro seed. But right now, after it rained, from my driveway to his, there's a big river running here. Now I know it's not done again, but I feel that the gable ends would maybe prevent that.
Yeah, one of the things with the gable ends is once we get in there and do the seeding and do some of the restoration. We'll put some erosion control material on both the driveways and the swale banks, and that'll prevent the erosion and allow everything to set in. So.
Okay, I'm sorry, but when you say swale, that really bothers me because we have a ditch. It's not a swale. It just, there's no way that what is in my yard right now is a swale. Also, I have this huge ditch now. I was told I was going to get a small swale, and now I have these orange lines in my grass. They told me they would save these trees. These 2 trees here. I have 4 trees, and they said possibly they should be saved. They wouldn't be in the way. Now they've dug right into the roots, but then after that, they put this orange line to show how far back they can come into my yard. Well, how could they possibly have thought they were going to save these trees if they're going to come back in? This is how back they've come into Pete's yard, all the way back to here. So I don't know how. It just upsets me that I don't feel we were told up front that what was going to happen. Or I would have done all this before in July if I would have known my yard was going to be like this. I just wish we would have been told. And now I did get a letter from Joe, and I think I've sent it. That 2 options. They could either raise the ditch, which that makes no sense because already the tiles in our driveways are not deep enough to where over time, eroding, freezing, thawing, they're going to end up. So if they raised it, they're going to have to raise that. So how can they possibly raise my ditch? And the other thing is he offered to tile the ditch in, give me a catch basin, and the city would pay for half of it and I would pay for the other half. And this is, again, I want my ditch filled in. I don't want this ditch in my front yard. But they've come and ruined my yard, and now they want me to pay to fix it. And it's very disturbing to me. And I guess, I don't know, I think, did most of city council get a letter from Linda Sass?
Yes.
Did you get a letter from Linda Sass? Okay, I don't want to read it unless people didn't get to read it. She's another neighbor that can't make it here tonight. And should I read it or has everybody read it?
I read it.
I've read this.
I do.
Okay. And the speed bumps, I think Jessica might talk about speed bumps tonight, I'm not sure. I don't like speed bumps, but I think on our road, we do need them. And they weren't planning on putting the speed bumps back.
Speed bumps are not part of the construction project. They are by petition.
Okay.
And you need to get a majority. I believe it's a simple majority, but it might be 60% of the 80% that wants to do them.
80%, Mayor.
That will need to be passed, and the
Okay.
city will put them in.
Okay, sounds good. I think that's it this time. Thank you very much for your time, and thanks for whoever did Brian. I know he drove down the street.
I took a tour this morning as well.
Did you? Thank you.
I've been up there several times.
It's just big ditches. I cannot believe that we're putting ditches like this in Sylvania. It just really bothers me.
There were ditches there before. I'm
They were
told.
little ditches.
They were narrow ditches, and they tried to do it with the swale, and we'll let the service director or the engineers talk about that.
Okay. Yeah, I just know a lot of people on my street are not going to be able to maintain these ditches. And my husband will not maintain this ditch. Thank you.
Others are welcome to come forward if you'd like to speak. You're not required to. Come on up. Just give us your name and address for the record.
Vincent Sperling, 5810 Cushman Road. I didn't bring any pictures. I was kind of unprepared to come up here. I was told there would be access to a Zoom meeting. I did not see that available anywhere. So
The Zoom meetings are advertised on the city website and on, I believe, on the Facebook page as well.
okay, I will know that going forward. Thank you. I understand it's a half-finished job, but as it stands right now, I have a 12-foot wide by 3-foot deep hole just kind of gouged in my front yard. There was I guess, what could be called a small ditch. My house is the last before about a 2-foot drop off down the rest of the road going south. There was a small, I don't know the proper terminology here. There was access under my driveway for water to flow out from my yard down south. And now I have an immense gorge. Again, I know it's not finished yet, but I mean, as it stands, I could lose my 2 or 3-year-old in the depth of this gorge. I do feel the swale is, I understand the terminology, being specific with definitions, but it's substantial. And it's not even, it hasn't even been handled particularly well by the people doing the work. They don't mind traffic. They don't warn people to say, hey, we're going to dig up your driveway right now. Do you need to move your cars? Today, my son missed an appointment because he's begun having seizures. He's 2 years old. It's very important that he goes to see these appointments.
It certainly is. That's
Yeah.
not acceptable
And
problem being created.
when my wife went to go to the appointment, our driveway was dug up. There was a front loader just tearing into it. It's part of the gig. I understand that. They haven't been telling us when these things are going to happen. When we're driving down the road, there's no one to say, hey, come on through. There's nothing like that. Earlier today, when I got home from work, there were 3 containers left in our front yard for drinks. This is not the first, second, third time this has happened. Pete, there were actually 2 drinks left in your front yard. I removed those. I removed them out of my front yard. So these people aren't being respectful to us. I don't feel like I feel disrespected in sort of a general sense, not only from the workers, but I need things put in layman terms because I'm not a civil engineer. I need to know exactly what you're doing with my yard. I'm a first-time homeowner. I've lived here for 2 years. I'm very proud and happy to be a homeowner in a good city like Sylvania. So having a well-to-do 40-year-old gentleman coming to my house saying, we're going to do some work in your front yard. It won't be much. It'll be nice and gentle just to help with water drainage is not exactly, I do feel a little bit cheated. You could call it my own naivete, being a young man who's, again, not a civil engineer. I do need things put in layman terms for me. And they were not. I was told a gentle swale. Now, like I said, I have a 12-foot wide by 3-foot deep gorge in my yard. And I just, it's all just been a bit frustrating.
All right. We appreciate your comments. It is not appropriate the way the contractor has treated you, and we will make sure that message gets to the contractor tomorrow morning and try to stop that kind of activities.
Thank you. And we could really get someone on the traffic. That's been
I
such
noted that myself as I went through. The road is just blocked two times that I've been up in there. Can't make it all the way through. They don't seem to care. I saw a small front end loader this morning doing work and I couldn't get there.
No, and they don't try to wave me on. They just look at you and stare. It's all a bit frustrating. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Welcome to come up.
Good evening. My name is Luke Cutler. I live at 5836 Cushman Road. I'm not really sure where to start. Since this project has begun, I was told about a swale. Let me start by saying that we purchased the house in August of last year for $230,000 on a quiet street with speed bumps and a nice front yard. And I now have one of those three things. I have a nice house still, but the rest of it is gone. The agreement that I signed said that I would have a swale no wider than 10 feet. I now have a swale that is 6.5 feet deep by 15.5 feet wide. I've measured 3 times in the last 3 weeks. Like I said, I know it's not done, but 80%, 88% doesn't make me sound like it's going to get any
Pretty
smaller.
close.
Yeah, it doesn't make it sound like the swale is going to get any smaller. The ditch, I'm sorry. Also, I have paperwork here that the city has provided the county for the construction work. And a small portion of that says that the guarantee shall provide that the easement area shall be restored to a condition similar to what existed prior to the commencement of construction. And that is not the case. Moving forward, there's bottles and cans in my front yard as well. I have been late to work twice because my babysitter cannot get through on the road. I have a 5-year-old and an 18-month-old. And I'm a corrections officer with the Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections. My wife is a pediatric trauma nurse at Toledo Children's Hospital, and she has been late to work once. My son has been late to school. Due to my driveway being blocked, I have 2 driveways, so I can easily move to one driveway or the other. No warning, no heads up has been given at all. The cutoff for my main driveway is so deep that my wife has ruined the front bumper on her brand new vehicle. So she has a white vehicle. The bottom of the bumper is all black. I can take pictures and bring them to the next meeting. Sorry, I sound a little shaken up. I'm very, very frustrated. I've worked the last 8 years of my life to provide my kids with a beautiful home with, a quiet neighborhood, and we thought we had it. We really did. I feel as though I've been lied to or conned into signing a contract by Joe Shaw and whoever his bosses and cohorts may be. I was told I'd be able to get a lawnmower through my swale. I have a riding lawnmower that would never make it through. Never. I'm at the top of a hill with a 6.5 foot deep ditch. There's just no need for it. I'm neighbors with Sharon, and she's lived there a very long time, and I lived in Sylvania most of my life. I know that the city of Sylvania is better than this project that they're doing. I really do. I mean that. I love the city of Sylvania, but what they're doing here, they would not do anywhere else in this city. If you took this to Centennial Farms, you would have a picket line outside.
All of the taxpayers of Sylvania are paying for this project. And Centennial Farms, as I believe if I can picture it, their sewers are underground. They paid for all that when they bought their lots. But your community, your street is having it all paid for by all these other taxpayers. It's not an assessment project. In fact, it sounds like you signed an agreement and were paid a cash payment for access into your lot. Is that correct?
It is correct. I was paid $269.
Not very much, but at least you were paid cash, which surprised me when those were brought to me. Why should we have
I
to
would
pay
have never signed
access?
it. You guys can keep the cash if you're the $269 does not pay for a front bumper on a brand new vehicle.
No, it doesn't. That's
And it
an
doesn't get my
insurance
son's
issue
one
that
time
the
either.
contractor will need to settle. You should bring in pictures of that, not to this meeting, but that needs to come into our service department. That's a claim, and that should be taken care of.
I'm not at all trying to be rude, but
No, you should.
$269
It has to be
does not
taken
get-
care of.
it does not get the other corrections officers home to their families so that I can be to work on time.
No, it doesn't.
Prison doesn't stop because Cushman Road has construction.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gary, my bad. Finance real estate. Basically, I use taking make the water main cap, you're standing in 6 feet of dry sand on the west side of the road, the water main. But why are we digging a swale on the other side, 3 feet, and the expressway swale was six feet under our road? It's all sand, it's going down the lowest point and going to the north side, it drains that way. So why do we have a swale around there for? I've been almost 40 years. I've seen everything there. Why do we?
I have been told by our engineers that as they dug the swale, they hit existing drainage tiles
Yeah.
that had been plugged over the years, and water's poured out of them. Water that was being held probably in people's crawl spaces or on your properties. So that's why those needed to be opened up again. People filled in the ditch, they created blockages. That's why some of your neighbors came to us and asked us to fix the drainage.
Yeah.
So to say there's no reason, we didn't initiate this project. This was initiated by people on your street.
Yeah. That's the thing, the water standing on the west, north, south side. That's all that there's all clay. There's much sand, there's clay after that. So the water just stops.
What about,
How about
the
higher, about
drainage
6 feet
guys?
higher
What
than
about
the-
the issues? City taxpayers didn't want to do this. We were asked to do it.
Yeah, well,
Where are those
I
people
didn't
now?
ask for it though.
Who asked?
I don't have those names.
You know
We
what
can-
happened?
We can
Don't
probably
have
find
any.
them out. What's that? Oh, if you're gonna make a comment, you need to come up and state your name. But all your neighbors aren't here. We were receiving complaints that water and drainage were a problem in the area, so we sent in the engineers to try and fix the problem that we had. So I'm trying to answer your question. There was a problem.
Yeah.
And I think it's proved by the fact that there are all these plugged drainage tiles that were there.
There is not my pipe there a foot, yeah. I had probably the biggest swale of anybody, two of them. It was a big change from the initial, this big change, this big improvement right now from what the initial swell, this big improvement. It'll be better, but right now it is looking better though, my part. I got the biggest.
We appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Other gentlemen, come on up.
Marvin Crowe, 5716 Cushman. That man over there, and you, where did you get these people that wanted this? I'm on the south end of this hill that these people are complaining about. I get all the water. Never had a problem cutting my grass. I can't even get to it now. It hasn't dried since you dug the first hole. And all these people you say wanted this? You're full of it. There were several houses between the hill and the bottom that you people have never, ever come along and done anything as far as open so-called blockages. I used to be able to step out in the middle of my ditch, one step and I was on my property. Now I have to walk up a damn hill. And if that grade is 50% off of your road, it's unsafe to cut with a tractor. And I haven't lived there 30 years. The only thing you accomplish is you got pipes that hopefully don't break them all winter long and leak. And we get a new road that you've resurfaced once in 30 years. Once. And all you've done is pothole fixing. So you've done nothing, but you want to take credit for it. These swells
I'm not sure
in
I
these
take
ditches,
credit for anything tonight.
these swells in these ditches, they're not. It's a damn gorge, is what you've done.
Thank you for your comments.
Just for reconfirm 5820, Pushman Peter is the owner of the house. With the last few comments, what I'm hearing is that people on Cushman requested it. People in the city are paying for it. Okay, but how many people requested it? Couldn't they have just maybe cleared out the lines? Was it necessary to dig up the entire street? Why was the project not designed properly in the first place? They're out here redoing work that they did just a handful of weeks ago. Sharon, Duval were told that our ditches weren't getting filled in because it was a money issue. But from our perspective, we see all this work being done, we see all these people these workers standing around watching other people work, right? And that seems very expensive to us. People
It's very
can't,
frustrating to watch contractors at work, I agree.
right, but but part of our conversation when we talk to our neighbors is that the contractors are just doing what the city is telling them to. There was a design, who approved this design? And why did Mr. Shaw come and tell us we have small swales when we have huge ditches? Somebody did mention that I'm on the case for speed bumps. I have a petition going on that, and it's not done yet. But in the same thread, Mr. Shaw did not ask people when he went around for this project, including, letting us know the street would be redone. He did not ask people if they wanted to have their speed bumps back. And on a side note, he didn't even say, is anybody interested in sidewalks? So we don't have those either, but our new neighbors to the north have them in Sunrise Circle. So there's two issues here that we feel misled on. One, particularly me, I feel misled on speed bumps, and people signing agree with me. I created the second petition to ask people, did Mr. Shaw ask you about speed bumps? And they say no. I understand that the city has a policy that when the road is repaved, speed bumps will be removed unless a petition is done and 80% approval is garnered from the neighbors. And I have a few issues with that. Why they just automatically be removed? There's been no zoning changes. It's still 100% residential. We don't have sidewalks, we don't have curbs, we don't have any other safety features besides those speed bumps. There's at least a dozen kids that live on the street, many more that live in Sunrise Circle and Balfour and Acres. People and kids from those streets coming down our street, for recreation. And personally, my family, we go up to Sunrise Circle and use their sidewalks. That's how we feel safer. But we feel misled about that. Like, why couldn't we even be informed that, when Mr. Shaw came around, he could just let everybody know this is what's going to happen. If you don't like it, here are your options, right? I just accidentally found out when I emailed Mr. Shaw and said, hey, when we get our new speed bumps, can we please have them painted? And he just said, oh, you're not getting them, right? And I had to dig and, I had to respond and have more conversation with him about why that wouldn't be happening. And then finally, it came out, well, you can petition. Okay, well, I am. But I want everybody to know that I think that that's very tricky of the city to make that policy in the first place, that they'll automatically be removed. And second, that we weren't told about it, and that, it's not like I don't have anything to do. I work full time. I'm a student. I have a family. I take care of the house. I'm slammed, but this is important to me. And I spent a lot of time already working on it. I write letters. I deliver them, I email people, I call people, I talk to neighbors. And I'm doing that because I feel it's the right thing to do. And I feel duped by the city, and a lot of other people do. Along with the ditch issue, Peter did come home today, he couldn't get his small car into the driveway. I backed mine up because I had to go somewhere, and it scraped the bottom of my SUV. I don't have a little SUV, it's a mid-size, and it's still scraped. And like Vincent said, they don't tell us when they're going to do that, when they're going to just dig up the driveway. I'm home all day working, and I look out the window every now and then, and I'm like, oh great, well, there goes the driveway. I got to go somewhere at 5:30. I hope they fill this in. Well, today they didn't.
It's unacceptable behavior. We will be be with the contractor, or Mr. Aller will be in the morning. I had no idea that they were being that disrespectful.
Thank you.
We were trying to sort that out immediately.
Thank you for acknowledging that. Just to sum it up, I think, I don't know how these meetings usually go. This is my first one, but I think we have a really good turnout on the street. And I hope that you see, we all care about our homes. We don't want to be the forgotten street because we were for a long time. And I think we deserve a lot better, and we deserve to have the job done right and to have our street look nice.
It should be done right.
Thank
No
you.
question about it. All right, I don't know if there's somebody else who wants to speak, you're welcome to come up. My intent is to, once we're done with residents, let Mr. Aller make a few comments and then sum it up. We will have the service director in touch with you individually to try and resolve these issues before the contractor leaves the job.
My name is Howard Brown.
Welcome.
I live at 6018 Cushman, the last one on the block.
To the north?
And I have never seen such a discouraging thing as this ditch. When I moved in there in, I think it was a late summer of 14, and I thought it was fantastic. We pulled probably 45 to 55 trees, had them cut down and pulled out by the roots. And when we had family, sons and daughters and grandkids, they could park any place along the road, and they parked 3 wide from the road up to the trailer, the garage. And that was fantastic. And I had plans when we got financially be able, but we've spent neighborhood of $10,000 to $12,000 getting those trees cut down. And that's all been paid for. But there is a ditch that comes out, starts about 5 feet on the other side, on the south side of the road. And that was where this pipe came out, and it traveled all the way down to the ditch and dumped into the ditch. And that was probably about 7 to 8 foot deep. And we were told, because I asked the planning commission, they told me that was a flood zone. And we had a porch that was added on. And when we had that fantastic rain, and I think in 15, there was like 5 inches of rain.
We had like a 5-inch.
Couple days.
Yep. We had streets
And
flooded all
that came
over
up
town.
about 6 inches below the crown of the bank, and it didn't get up underneath the porch. We have a 16 by 20 porch, all coated, fenced in with the puppies running in there. But they've never been on the grass. But then I asked what it would take for me to go from the embankment and go straight over to Pushman Road. He said, you can't do that because that is part of the flood zone. And they had a survey done, a resurvey, and the surveyor come up with it. And I worked with him out there, moving the stake around and holding the wire. And he said, well, unless it's a horrendous 1,000-year special, you don't have any water. I have a 4-foot crawl space, and that's all bone dry. And what I asked was why they couldn't use that drain that is still perfectly clean. When the rains came down, it came down from up about that neighbor up on the hill. I don't know, her name, Wall. And that came up here, up to there, and went in and just came down all the way down. Another gentleman that talked about having the railroad ties down, anchored in to be able to walk out and step on those railroad ties, maybe from here to the back of the chair at the most, and he'd be on the other side of the roadside. And I had the fantastic experience in 2014, when I lived out in Genoa. Road construction come in to widen 163. And I saw how they could do that. And I questioned why that couldn't have been done then. They've got 2 poles, 2 light poles out there in front of the house by the edge of the drive. And that, the pipe comes up, and I was out there watching them. It sticks so about this far in, past the 1 light pole. And I said, why didn't they close that in? He says, that's not in the plans. I said, I can tell you how to fix it, because I had a fantastic construction crew out in Genoa. They took 29.29 acres for road construction, widening the road. And they went the 224 feet across my front yard and put a tile in. And it came from the other side of the subdivision, and that was all underground. And they put the catch basins down there, and they ran, I think it was corrugated steel wound up, and then they put like a mosquito netting or grass netting across. In the outside of that, they put the pipe in and then anchored it in place, and they collected those all together, and then they covered it up with about 3 foot of stone. And they did that all the way across. And when I complained about the fact I don't have any way of getting rid of my water, because it was
I think
standing.
you're getting too technical on me here. I'm going to have you talk to the engineers. I think you're getting too technical here for me.
Well, I know, but I worked with those guys a little bit. They explained to me why they were doing it. They sunk I think it was a 22 or 24 inch pipe down from where they put the grate in for the water. Also, I was pumping my sump pump out in Genoa out and down into that water. And they put the pipes down in, and they mortared them in place, and then put them back in there and covered it up. And then put the dirt over. And I never had any problem.
All right, we appreciate your comments.
Pardon?
We appreciate your comments.
Well, I wish that somebody would put somebody else to wish in your
I
comments.
got your name, and we'll try to figure out how to help you.
And if anybody wants to come over, I'll be glad to take them out.
Very good.
But I was told by the planning commission here that you cannot take and just lay the water over on any place other than by that bridge.
Okay, I don't know.
because it's all against the federal code.
We'll have to have an engineer talk to you.
Okay, I'll shut up.
Thank you. All right, let's have the engineer speak. Mr. Aller, you've heard a lot of comments tonight. I know you can't give any specific answers. My commitment is that the engineering department will be in touch with the folks that spoke here tonight to try to find a solution. First off, I should ask members of council also if you have questions for Mr. Aller or any of the residents.
So, Kevin, I'm just wondering, is a pipe possible from an engineering perspective? I mean, could this all be buried with a pipe underneath? Is that a possibility?
I would say it's a possibility, but it wouldn't be, it wouldn't be advisable. We'd have to dig out what's there, put in proper bedding, bring fill back in over the pipe, and all of that. It would be pretty costly to do something like that.
So I have another quick question for you. I think the citizens here have been very respectful and they've really done a great job of presenting their case. And I very much appreciate the way that you've handled yourselves in such a wonderful, genuine, informational way. But one of my questions is that since they have been very clear that the project is not done, do you, Kevin, believe that those deeper ditches that have been described will be less deep? I don't know, will be more of the swale that they were expecting? They've been clear it's not done, but what does it mean from your viewpoint?
Yeah, I honestly do believe there's been a couple comments made tonight, and I've been jotting notes that I'll go out to check a couple things. But I honestly do believe that if we can give this project a chance to complete and for the grass to grow back in and things of that nature, they will find that these are mowable. I went in my backyard. I have a great difference between the top part of my yard and the bottom part where there's a drainage swale back along there. I have the exact same grades on that we have put on this project, and I've mowed that swale for 20 years that I've lived at the house. So these are mowable. They look much. They just look in such sharp contrast to the yards and things of that nature because it's just a bunch of dirt. And once we get things to grow back in, I truly believe that they will be maintainable with yard equipment and things of that nature. It's just right now, it's just everything is tore up. It's much different than what was there before. I do acknowledge that. The swale a swale is a ditch. A swale and ditch conveys water. The difference is a ditch, you have steep embankments, and a swale, you have gradual embankments. And in order to provide the residents out there something that they could maintain, we went with the swale so that they would be able to maintain them. And if we can just give it some time, I think we'll be there.
And then the other quick question that I have for you is, and I think that the mayor did address this and kind of felt comfortable. Some of the things that feel disrespectful by the contractors are things that you believe can be resolved, the picking up of their glasses or their cans and notifying them before they tear up driveways and kind of being more of a partner in the process.
Yeah, absolutely. That should never happen. At the beginning of the project, we were having problems with buses getting through and things of that nature. And we got on the contractor and asked for that to be corrected. And the schools, they indicated they sent an email thanking us. And so we got that resolved. But we'll definitely follow up with them. And things like that just aren't acceptable.
Kevin, who is the contractor on this?
Salenbine. They're out of Dundee, Michigan. And, typically a very good contractor. They've done good construction work, things like that. That coordination needs to occur on a daily basis, and it obviously hasn't been.
And has this project Is this what you expected?
No. Joe takes, it's been a little disappointing. We pride ourselves on making sure that people understand what they're getting. Joe takes pretty extensive notes during his meetings and stuff. And so we thought the discussions had been there that, we let people know. But there's a big difference between a conversation and seeing it in the ground. I chalk some of it up to that. I chalk up some of it up to the fact that perhaps we didn't do as good of a job in our communication. But, we've been here a while. That's pretty rare. Like I said, we pride ourselves on that. We apparently missed the boat somewhere on this one.
Bold-faced lie.
Yeah, I mean,
We will work to resolve your issues.
Sharon Duvall, 5824 Pushman Road. Kevin, can I just ask, I'm on a hill where I've never had water problems. I've never had a ditch. I had a beautiful yard that we took care of. And Joe he told us a little swale. This is exactly what he said to me. A little swale in your front yard. And this is not a swale. I have a huge ditch in my yard, and now okay, so if the city is offering to pay for half of mine, are they offering to pay for half of everyone else's? I just don't understand it. It just has not been presented to us right at all. And I haven't been able to sleep. I haven't been able to eat since I dug into my yard like this.
Well, from a swale and ditch standpoint, if you want to go down Erie Street to the bridge that's just to the west of Highland Meadows Golf Course and look over the bridge, that's a ditch. That's the swale has gradual slopes, and that's what we've put in. Now, to you, it's a ditch because you didn't have something like that before, but it's a swale.
I have a hill in my yard. It comes so far back into my front yard. It's ridiculous.
Well, and that's one of the reasons that we talked about doing something with yours, because your house does set much closer to the road than what the majority of the houses back in there do. So
Can I ask why we weren't presented with this option before? I mean, if I would have known I had a choice, I would have taken the other choice. And I mean, now I'm, after a year of COVID, trying to keep our business alive right here on Main Street. And now I'm presented, I've got to pay $1,600 to have my front yard fixed. It's just really hard to swallow.
When Joe,
No, you need to give us your name and address.
I'm sorry, Kathy Crone, 5716 Cushman.
Thank you.
When Joe Shaw first came out to our house, well, we got a letter, and then we set up a meeting, and he sat and stood right in our front yard, and we talked about this swell. And I had a ditch that was all nice and fixed up, closed in, ran. No water set in it, and he told us it would not be any deeper. And it's not a swell. It's huge. It's a ditch, and it is deeper. So he lied right off the bat. And then I asked him, I says, can I just pay to have this filled in? He said, oh, no. It all has to be even. It all has to be even. We aren't doing that. And I said, so this is already a done deal. You're just coming out here to tell us. And he said, that's right. It's done. This is what's going to happen, whether you like it or you don't. So he lied from the get-go.
Luke Cutler, 5836 Pushman Road. Kevin, a few moments ago, you said that residents of Cushman Road are upset because we have something very different than what existed prior to what's going on now, correct?
I said different.
You said very different.
Okay.
Anyways, well, the paperwork that you turned into, you and your team turned into the county says that we will be restored to a condition similar to what exists prior to the commencement of construction. So would you agree that similar and very different are two words that are very far apart?
Well, you're using that term.
I'm not finished, sir. Maybe you could understand why a lot of people are upset with what's going on.
Are you done?
I'm done now, yeah.
You're using that term for things that are not, the term return the grounds to similar as existed prior to. That's in regards to that your grass is going to be replaced and things of that nature. It's not, it's the discussions of the swale had taken place. Everyone so far has acknowledged that. It's just there wasn't an understanding of.
Here disagrees with what's been.
Wait,
done.
I'm speaking now, sir.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
There's a misunderstanding of what the swale means and what the area of the swale was going to be. And that's where the breakdown was.
My turn?
Sure.
Thank you. Every single person here has been duped or lied to by either you or Joe Shaw, and I think that that's been shown to the council and the mayor tonight. I really hope that this can come to a peaceful resolution. Have a good night, sir.
Thank you. I think that's a good end to it tonight. You've spoken before. We've had some comments. If there's somebody that hasn't spoken, but we're not going to continue to do this. I think that we need to move on. The city council and I make a commitment to have the service director work to resolve your issues. I want to put it in
I'm sorry.
You don't listen very well, do you?
I'm sorry.
Ho! I'm in the chair here. Sit down. I will let you speak in a moment. I am speaking.
I'm sorry.
We will work to resolve these issues. We had a drainage issue and this city council agreed to spend all the money from all the taxpayers in this city to try and solve the problem. It's not being solved to your satisfaction, but it's not an assessment project. We need to find a way through this project. And I understand that more than half of you have received cash payments to allow the city to go on your property to make these improvements. I find that unimaginable. Why would I get paid to let somebody come on my property to try and fix a drainage problem? Now, you're not happy with the way it's being done, but this is a lot of taxpayer dollars going in here from all around the city, going to your street. I have to find a solution to this, but I have to do it in a way that's fair to every other taxpayer in this city. We've heard a lot of complaints tonight. I've made a commitment to get back to you and we'll try to solve the problems. But I think it's now becoming too controversial. We're going to stop it. This city council has other business to go on to. You're the last speaker. And if I will stop you if you become too controversial.
Okay. Mayor, I apologize. I did not mean to upset you. I did just have one quick question for Mr. Allen. Again, I'm very sorry. This is my first council meeting.
This is not the Jerry Springer show.
Absolutely. Sir, Mr. Kevin, what would be a time frame post completion of a project that you would say we could feel comfortable? I don't know exactly how to put this. Basically, what would a time frame post completion of the project do you feel? And I know you have to work with nature here to say that it is completely done. And I don't mean to rush you. I know you're working with nature and you have to work around things, but just after the completion of the project, would the yard be back to normal?
I don't think it's sometimes during these projects I've had, through almost 30 years, in dealing with these projects, I've come on to projects, 3 months after a project is done and someone's upset because the grass isn't completely in. But then during that discussion, they talk about how it took them 5 years to get their their yard to look this good. So I can't do something in 3 months that it just naturally takes longer than that. It really takes an entire growing season for grass to get, properly established, and for, dirt will shift around. It's just the way it is with the rains and everything. So, by late fall, hopefully things will be in pretty good shape, that everybody will be able to see what is in place after that. Grass is just going to take a while. If we have a dry June and July, it's going to be nothing but rye and weeds. And so it just takes a little bit, but we should be with a normal season. That should be where we're at.
Okay, and Vincent Sperling, 5810 Cushman Road. I apologize. I'm sorry. I'm asking as a new homeowner.
That was a good question.
And
That's a good question.
Again, I apologize for upsetting you. Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Mayor, I just had a couple of structural questions for Mr. Allen. That were tapered aprons for the driveways part of the plan?
I'm sorry, Ms. McKinn, I didn't hear that.
Were tapered aprons part of the plan?
I'm going to pull the plans out for that, because I'm not sure what kind of somebody's referred to them as the gables. I'm not sure. Each drive is different because of the grades and things of that nature. So I've got to. That's one of the things I have in my notes.
Okay, and then the last three properties to the south and the top one to the north all have covered pipe and level ground. So I was wondering why that wasn't either a consideration, again, as a choice.
That was replacement of what was there in kind. The only plans that we have for that area is when the interchange went through, and what is now called Randall Drive, it was referred to as Access Road on those plans. And the drainage and everything in that area is shown on there. There was no pipe or anything put in at that time. So those pipes, there was nothing in the city records that the city had on it. When we did some grade shooting and our sewer crews through the years have gone in to try to get some things flowing. That stuff was in very poor shape. The grades were irregular, but we put back what existed, and that's why those have that.
Okay. And are flagmen required for jobs like this, for projects like this?
Yes, they probably should have had flagmen on there. When you get a low volume street like this, sometimes the contractor will, try to use existing staff. But then if that staff, if he gets real busy and that staff is needed at other places, they kind of pull them away. So.
Thank you.
Yep. Mayor, I would like to address the speed humps. The speed humps, that policy was in place before my existence. We've done 2 other streets where we've resurfaced, milled and resurfaced. And in both of those streets, they had to go back through the process. And the reason for it is, those speed humps may have been put in 20 years ago. Several of the property owners have changed hands, and maybe the existing homeowners don't want the speed bumps. But if it comes back that 80% of the residents wish to have it, there is some other criteria in the policy. But if it comes back that it meets the criteria, then the speed humps will go back in. Our crews do that. Our city crews do that. We don't have contractors do that.
The city has been faulted both ways, Mr. Aller.
Mm-hmm.
When they automatically went back in, we got faulted for that. When they don't go back in automatically, we get faulted for that. Yep. It didn't used to be 80%. I thought it was 50 or 60%. 60% City Council over the decades has refined this policy, and it is what it is, and perhaps it'll get refined again. But that's what it is right now. Okay, we appreciate you coming. Some of you have already left. This mayor and the city council will assure you that the service department will be back in touch and try to find solutions to your concerns.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We are now up to agenda item 5. 3 annual assessment ordinances that the clerk has prepared for us. Are any of these rates changed, either Kevin or Leslie or Sharon? These are all continuations. One of these is the ditch ordinance. However, the first one is the shade tree maintenance and control of blight issue. Trimming of those trees. Again, these are front foot assessments that are done, and they are not increased this year. They do occasionally get increased, but not this year. The first one is Ordinance 35, 2021 for trees. This is Capolini.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to introduce by title only ordinance number 35-2021, providing for the controlling blight and disease of shade trees and for planting, maintaining, trimming, and removing shade trees in and along the streets and within public right-of-way of the city of Sylvania. Authorizing the Director of Public Service by and through the proper offices of said city to do said work during the year 2021, establishing one district for said purpose in accordance with the provision of Section 727.011 of the Revised Code of Ohio, providing for the assessment of the cost and expense thereof upon abutting property. I move for passage ordinance number 35-2021 and declare an emergency as an emergency measure.
Second. It has been moved and seconded for passage of ordinance 35, 2021 as an emergency measure. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and ordinance 35, 2021 is enacted as an emergency measure. Moving on to agenda item 5B, ordinance 36, 2021 for the construction of ditches. Mr. McCann.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to introduce by title only ordinance number 36-2021, providing for the construction, maintenance, repair, and closing open drainage ditches located with the corporate limits of the city of Sylvania, authorizing the Director of Public Service by and there through the proper officers of said city to do said work during the year 2021, establishing one district for said purpose in accordance with the provisions of Section 727.012 on the Revised Code of Ohio, providing for the assessment of the cost and expense thereof upon abutting property. I move passage of ordinance 36-2021 as an emergency measure.
Second.
And seconded for passage of ordinance 36, 2021 as an emergency measure. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and ordinance 36, 2021 is enacted as an emergency measure. Moving on to 5C, resolution 6, 2021. This is for street lighting in the city. This is Westfall.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to introduce by title only resolution number 6-2021, declaring the necessity of lighting the streets in the city of Sylvania, Ohio, determining the manner of providing street lighting and the basis for the property owner's share of the cost and annual assessment. I move final passage of resolution number 6-2021 as an emergency measure.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded for passage of resolution 6, 2021 as an emergency measure. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and resolution 6, 2021 is enacted as an emergency measure. Moving on to agenda item 6. This is a future project for the city of Sylvania, reconstruct Main Street between the bridge over 10 Mile Creek and Convent Boulevard. Mr. Aller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, this project is one that we applied for STBG funds back in 2018 and were awarded $400,000. Our plans for this is basically the section of Main Street between the bridge over 10 Mile Creek and Convent Boulevard. We'll be looking at doing a road diet with this project and looking to reduce the actual traveled lane widths. They are oversized at this point, and be able to install bike lanes along that section of Main Street with this project. We will be doing some storm sewer replacements and some lining work where necessary. And it will also include a full traffic signal upgrade at the St. Joseph's Church. We will be doing some work in advance of this, some sanitary sewer work that we have to be doing. That'll be coming up in a couple of years and prior to the construction of this project. This local let project agreement is a requirement of ODOT's. We've done them on a few of our other projects in which we will be the local public agency that's in charge of administering the project, and we recommend its approval.
Construction is scheduled for 2024.
That's correct.
Okay. Mrs. Capellini.
I have a question, Kevin. Will the bike lanes, will it just be one, like a white stripe separating it, or will there be some kind of physical separation, or what does that bike lane look like?
No, it'll probably be separated on white line, just because of the room that we have available. So
I was just hoping for something better than Sylvania Avenue. Sylvania Avenue's got that single stripe, and if sometimes it's actually worse with just one stripe because cars feel like they can like ride right on the stripe versus if there's no stripe, they go around, versus some kind of physical separation or maybe a double stripe or just something more than just a single.
I'll have to familiarize myself with the manual, the OMUTCD, the traffic control devices, to see if we can do something with the striping. I know as far as a physical separation, we don't have the room available for that.
Okay, and then I'm assuming that the storm sewers you're replacing them because they're like tracks for bike wheels. So you're gonna do the like either skinnier or crossways?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We have an ordinance 37, 2021. This is for the city to enter an agreement with ODOT for this project. No construction until 2024, but we need to do some sewer work in advance, Kevin, I believe is what you said. So
yes.
We're asking for passage of this ordinance authorizing this agreement with ODOT. This is Westfall.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to introduce by title only ordinance number 37-2021, authorizing the mayor and director of finance to enter into an agreement with the state of Ohio Department of Transportation on behalf of the city of Sylvania for the Main Street between 10 Mile Creek and Convent Boulevard reconstruction project. I move final passage of ordinance number 37-2021 as an emergency measure.
Second. Been moved and seconded for passage of ordinance 37, 2021 as an emergency measure. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and ordinance 37, 2021 is enacted as an emergency measure. On agenda item 7, this is the purchase of a dump truck and the dump truck equipment as authorized, as included in the capital improvement budget for the year. Mr. Aller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, we have quotes for a chassis from Kenworth and a quote for the dump truck body from Kaleida Equipment. I'll address them as a whole to begin here. The total package comes to a total of $174,910. The increase in the cost is in the dump truck body. The chassis cost is actually about almost $200 less than what the last chassis that we purchased 2 years ago was. But the dump truck bodies have gone up considerably. We did obtain 2 quotes There aren't many companies that do this, as you can imagine, but we did obtain 2 quotes, and Collide Equipment was the lowest quote for that portion of the work. But that total is in excess of the original budget amount of $150,000 that we had in the capital improvement plan. We would, I would still like to request council to move forward with this purchase, and we'll keep an eye on on our capital improvement fund, and make sure it's still our intent to live within that budget. We just may have to modify things towards the end of the year, or move some things around. But I do think that it's important that we replace this existing truck. We're actually looking, I was hoping to have before tonight a quote to trade that existing truck in. As you know, most of the times we'll go to gov deals for our equipment, but this truck is in such a condition that I'm not comfortable in doing that, and would just assume do a trade-in with a dealer that can put the time and effort and cost into the truck that it needs to be able to put it back on the road with somebody. So I'm hoping to have that cost, which will obviously ultimately come off the total of $174,910, but I didn't have it as of tonight. So I would ask for permission to move forward on both of these items, because it does take some time to get both the chassis and the dump truck body to get them back into the shop. So I'd ask for permission to move forward.
We have 2 separate ordinances to do that. Questions for Mr. Aller? We'll start with agenda item 7B, which is proposed ordinance 38, 2021. This is to purchase the Whiteford Kenworth dump truck chassis for the Division of Streets. This is Westfall.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to introduce by title only ordinance number 38-2021, authorizing the mayor and director of finance to accept the proposal of Whiteford Kenworth for the provision of a new dump truck chassis for the Division of Streets Department of Public Service, appropriating $82,410. I move final passage of ordinance number 38-2021 as an emergency measure.
Second.
Been moved and seconded for passage of ordinance 38, 2021 as an emergency measure. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and ordinance 38, 2021 is enacted as an emergency measure. We had to further report from Mr. Aller, but I think he's already discussed the truck body and snow and ice plow issue and pricing. Anything else you want to say, Kevin?
No, I don't believe so, unless there are any questions. I believe I spoke to it. So
The overages, so he is still recommending ordinance number 39, 2021. This is Westfall.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to introduce by title only ordinance number 39-2021, authorizing the mayor and director of finance to accept the proposal of Lighter Truck Equipment, Ohio, for the provision of a new dump truck body and snow and ice plow package from Division of Streets, Department of Public Service. I move final appropriating $92,500. I move final passage of ordinance number 39-2021 as an emergency measure.
Second. Been moved and seconded for passage of ordinance 39, 2021 as an emergency measure. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and ordinance 39, 2021 is enacted as an emergency measure. Thank you. Moving to the second page of our agenda, we are up to agenda item 8. This is another street banner application. Recall we did approve one, I think at the previous meeting, for Sylvania schools, which goes up after this one will come down. This is to put up a previous banner, Lord's University, recognizing their graduates. There's a copy of it right here. They are paying the cost of it. And we, by ordinance, Sylvania City Council is required to individually approve these banner applications. So we do have proposed ordinance 40, 2021 to approve this banner to go up. The banner will be up between May 7th and May 21st. And then the Sylvania Schools banner goes up pretty shortly after that, when this one comes down. Mr. Hayden, we have proposed ordinance 40, 2021.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will move to read by title only ordinance number 40-2021, approving the banner application of Lord's University, authorizing the zoning administrator to indicate such approval on behalf of the city of Sylvania. And I move adoption of ordinance number 40-2021 as an emergency measure.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. The passage of ordinance 40, 2021 is an emergency measure. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and ordinance 40, 2021 is enacted as an emergency measure. Those are both banners that have been up in previous years. Agenda item 9. We have further information about options for refuse and recycling. And Mr. Aller is asking to schedule a utilities committee meeting for that discussion. Mr. Aller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, we received a proposal from our existing vendor, Republic Services, to extend our contract for a 5-year period. When we went out for bids in 2016, that contract is a 5-year contract and included the provision for a 5-year extension if both parties agree. The proposal that they've provided to us is very favorable. During the committee meeting, we talked about a bunch of what ifs on the recycling market, the cart costs, the collection costs, and things of that nature. And the proposal that they have given us basically just increases our cost 3 cents per household in the first year of the agreement. There are annual inflationary costs that are typical, but in year one, it's only a 3 cent per household cost increase, and that includes single carts for both garbage collection as well as recycling collection, automated collection on both sides of that equation. It does involve some scheduling changes, but those are pretty minimal and easily manageable, I believe, through some public awareness. So, but I believe knowing exactly what their proposal now is, we can take a look at, I have been taking a look at our existing, the edits that I had provided you before, and we'll be able to finish those up and put together a definite document as to how we move forward, what those rules and regulations will be, and et cetera. So I would like to have the utilities committee meeting so that we can talk about that further.
Kevin, how much time do you think we would need for that?
I think a half hour would be sufficient, Mr. McCann.
Okay. I'd like to try to schedule a meeting. Mr. Richardson is not here, but for 7 o'clock on following our next meeting, it's at, unless that time slot is already taken.
Ahead of the next council meeting at
Yes.
7 o'clock. I show nothing else.
And again, is this time sensitive that we have to move?
No, actually, if to move forward, the time issue isn't as critical because it's just a matter of us getting things coordinated with Republic. So,
And I move we schedule a meeting of the Utilities Commission committee that date at 7 p.m. before our next council meeting.
A second?
Second.
Moved and seconded to schedule a utilities committee meeting for the purpose of discussing refuse and recycling contract options for 7 p.m. on Monday, May 17th. All in favor of that indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and the clerk is directed to advertise that meeting, post that meeting.
Thank you.
Agenda item 10, committee reports. Mr. Ham, you've had an hour and a half plus. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, there's one more question. Will we get copies of the proposal before the utilities meeting?
Yes. Yeah. I'll have them. I hope to have them to you. I should have them to you by the end of this week, if not mid part of next week. So.
All right, on to agenda item 10, committee reports. First, there is the zoning committee, zoning and annexation committee held this evening. Mr. Haynes.
I think everybody here was at the meeting.
We were.
So my report will be brief.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't think anyone will take issue with that.
We had two items on the agenda. The first one being SUP 1-2021 relating to the a request that we issue a special use permit for the installation of a cell tower at the high school. And the second issue, the proposed ordinance number 12-2021 relating to our requirements relating to bicycle parking. We had a very nice presentation from a Verizon engineer on coverage impacts of the new tower. We heard a lot about the parent, about the entity that is seeking the SUP and their relation to Verizon. Then we had a lot of comments, predominantly opposing the installation of the tower for reasons. I made it very clear that we were not going to consider health impacts of this tower, although we did receive some comments to that effect. But most of the comments were directed to health and safety issues, about just the presence of the tower, about the fact that they catch on fire sometimes, they throw off ice, and we got some comments that were pretty ugly. I thought we got a very interesting comment from Greg Feller from the school board. They did not get much concern from the public with either health impacts or aesthetics, but noted that, and he made a point that the school board was not doing this for the money, which is a good thing. There's not much money here, but for a safety issue related to cell phone efficiency. And then the one of the Tarpon Tower Single Council also indicated that this would also address parental communication during the time of emergency at the school. We had a number of items promised by Tarpon Towers to be presented to us, including more info about who Tarpon Towers was and their financial capabilities. He and the council also offered to provide a response to the email comments that we got from Mr. Burr, addressing a lot of very concerning issues about both some legal and practical issues with the tower if there were problems down the road. He also legal counsel for Tarpon Towers also offered to get us some additional information on the impact of this tower on housing values from a licensed appraiser, all of which are encouraged. I requested of a couple of commenters that if we could have more solid information about property impacts, that would be helpful. And also, if we could have some more impact from more comment from the neighbors, if there really was strong opposition. We decided that we would leave the matter in zoning until we get these additional reports, and that we would schedule another zoning committee meeting in due course to consider those. With regard to bike parking, Keith Webb, who has provided some great comments on that to us, appeared and gave us some additional comments, and we had a discussion that resulted in the decision that we would not, that would require bike parking to be added as changes occur in the site plan for any properties in the city, as opposed to the 2-year drop dead date that we had in the original legislation. And we directed the administration to prepare legislation and get that to us to review. And we will either consider that at the next zoning committee, or if appropriate, we could move forward with it at the next council meeting. And we adjourned at 7:45, which was only 15 minutes late, but it sure seemed no longer. And that's my report.
Okay. The city administration law director will be back with the revised bike parking legislation. That's pretty straightforward. Have you made a decision what your next step is?
I want to talk to Leslie before we'll get something scheduled.
Okay, that's your next step.
Right. My next step
the
is
city law director.
talk to the law director, which is always enjoyable and informative.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any other committee reports we made at this time, or any committee referrals? If not, the law director is requesting an executive session to discuss potential litigation against the city. So at this time, I need to have a motion to go into executive or to committee of the whole executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. I need the clerk to call the roll.
Mrs. Cappellini?
Yes.
Mr. Fry?
Yes.
Mr. Hanem?
Yes.
Mr. McCann?
Yes.
Mrs. Dow?
Yes.
Mrs. Westfall? Yes.
Vote is 6-0. Chuck, let me know. We are back in open session. I can report that during the Committee of the Whole executive session, only one issue of possible litigation was discussed. No action was taken during that executive session, and there was no action for council to take at this point as a result of that executive session. That brings us to the end of our agenda for this evening. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and this council stands adjourned until its next regularly scheduled meeting 2 weeks from tonight on Monday, May 17th at 7:30 PM. Thank you for your long attention.